Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Life Below the Surface. Today I'm being joined by Lisa Bodechon, who is the Senior Director of Animal Training for our Dolphin department here at the aquarium. I'm very excited for today's episode because dolphins were basically my first love. They're a species that I care for very, very much. So Lisa, let's start talking about dolphins. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Josh. I'm real excited to be here.
So you are the Senior Director of Animal Training. So basically, you're the boss.
Yes. It's been a long journey to get to this position. I'm really excited and happy to be here. I started 13 years ago now to launch this Dolphin program and get it off the ground. And I actually started as the associate curator and made my way up the career ladder. And I absolutely love doing what I do. I love watching the team grow and the animals flourish. So it's great.
That's quite some time that you said 12 years, right?
Yes, going on 13 actually. It'll be 13 in a couple months.
Nice, going on 13, very cool. So you and I kind of actually have something in common. We kind of got our starts in South Florida, right? You haven't always been at Georgia Aquarium. You got experience elsewhere too, correct?
Yes. Actually, my first job working with animals was right out of college. In New Jersey. So I graduated from Kutztown University in Pennsylvania, and I got my first job right out of college at the New Jersey State Aquarium. I was an educator there, and I volunteered with the birds. So my first animal love was penguins, and they sit in my heart because they are the cutest animals. But they brought me an extra love for animals, and then about a year later, I made my way down to South Florida. I worked in Miami for about 10 years. I worked down in Marathon in the Florida Keys for about 6 months. And then after that, made my way here to Georgia to help launch the Dolphin program.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. So you had mentioned that you grew up in New Jersey?
I actually grew up in a suburb right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So right over the bridge, it's just probably about a half-hour commute over to New Jersey, where I got my first job.
Gotcha. So was that first job, is that kind of what led you down the path, or was there something from much earlier on? You know me, I've been in the zoological world for a long time as well. I got my start at a young age. Most, I think, folks that work with animals, it's not really something you just kind of fall into. In some cases it can be, but for most of us, it's basically like a lifelong dream. Is it the same for you?
It was, and I know, it's the story that a lot of people hear. I was the little girl who my parents took me to SeaWorld. I was about 8 years old. They chose me to be the kid in their show, and ever since that moment, I fell in love with marine animals, particularly dolphins, and I set forth on my journey. I went to college, I studied marine sciences, and I really worked hard to get to where I am today. It's a passion, it's a job, but it's a passion, and you have this passion in your heart and your soul. Every time you are poolside and you see those gray faces, it just brightens your love every single day. And as you kind of grow in the career, you always make time once a day at least to get poolside and smile at those dolphins and just kind of love them. And that's why we're here. It's why we do what we do.
I love it. And as I mentioned, and I know you know this as well, my first love was dolphins. That was the first animal when I started my zoological career, even though I spent most of it with sea lions, walruses, that kind of thing. I had a lot of dolphin time in between. And they are one of the coolest animals, and it honestly is for that reason. When you're with them, when you're interacting with them, when you get to care for them, there's something absolutely just, I don't know even how you express it, but there's just something incredible about just like, that's a dolphin right there. Mm-hmm. I'm hanging out with a dolphin right now. There's that little kid quality of never really, getting bored with the fact that animal is right there with you, and that animal is relying on you to for its care, but also just to have fun with. Yes. That's my favorite part about dolphins compared to any other animal, is that when they're with you and engaged, it is a mutual, let's do this kind of thing. Do you feel similarly?
It is, and I think it's, like you said, it's different every single day. Yeah. I mean, they are very intelligent animals. They love to play. They love to learn. Some dolphins just thrive on learning. One in particular, Kay, he is so just curious, if he's in a session and another dolphin is learning, he's kind of looking back, hey, what are they learning? I'm excited. When is it my turn to learn? And just kind of being with them every single day. They have a very dynamic social structure. We have 13 dolphins in our care here at Georgia Aquarium, and their social dynamics will change daily. And it's our responsibility as trainers to, know what they're doing and know what they're going through and adapt every single day based on their needs and their cares. They're fun, they're energetic, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Of all the dolphins I've worked with, you get to care for and see, which makes me jealous, get to care for and see one of my absolute favorites. And you know who it is. That's my little girl, Lily. Lily was, during my time at Marineland with Lily down there in Florida, she was very endearing. And honestly, if friends or family come to visit me, or anything, if there was a special needs situation, Lily was one of the most reliable animals, and she was just there for a good time. That was my favorite part about Lily, is that she was up for anything, very relaxed, just an incredible animal, and I'm sure she's probably still that way.
Lily is the sweetest soul. I mean, with her trainers, right? She is just so sweet. You get into the water with her and she's there with you and, just doing, everything that she wants to kind of interact with you in such a good way. But she's also the sweetest soul to, her conspecifics. If there's ever, another female in the pod and maybe they're just having an off day, Lily tends to sweep them up and take them with her, and it's all right, let's swim around and, let's do this. So it's just really cool to see the way she interacts, with her fellow dolphins, in conjunction with how she acts with us as trainers. She's the sweetest. She's also very energetic. She's learning all sorts of segments still within the daily presentations. She's very reliable with our guest encounters. She's fantastic.
There's always those misconceptions, and on this podcast we've talked about some of those misconceptions. Basically, sharks being these evil creatures, and then the misconception of sea lions being those goofy ones. I feel like dolphins over the years have kind of almost got that, kind of the angels of the sea type of perception, which I think is only actually true in Lily's case. I think she might be the only dolphin actually say, yeah, that's an angel right there. But as far as bottlenose dolphins go specifically, I know you've worked with some different species of dolphin. Bottlenose dolphins do have that reputation, but the actual, in my opinion, the actual dolphin animal, being the amazing intellectual predators that they are, the real bottlenose dolphin is actually a lot cooler than I think all those misconceptions about them. All their skill set, their adaptations, what, in your opinion, what makes a dolphin such an incredible animal, aside from your personal relationships, just in general? What do you think makes a dolphin so incredible?
I think they're so incredible because they are so socially oriented with one another. They are pod animals, and they, will swim in pods and do things together as pods, and I love watching some of the females kind of hone in and take that matriarch role. If we have a young female, she's been with us for about a year now, she's 7 years old, and she's a 7-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So she's like a toddler, she's mischievous, and I just love watching some of the older females kind of scoop her up and say, come on over here, this is what you should be doing. It's just they're so intelligent, and they are so dynamic and diverse, and just the pods, the way that they relate to one another and have such strong bonds with each other and care for each other, it's just amazing to watch.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And is that 7-year-old you're talking about, would that be the beautiful Coquina?
It sure would.
I got to see
Yes.
Coquina being born. That was an unbelievable experience. She's a very, very sweet animal as well. And so was her mom. It was really cool to see. She was I believe a 3rd or 4th generation.
Yes,
She was there with her grandmother as
Yes,
well.
she
And,
was. Mhm.
you're talking about the tight-knit pod. I'll never forget, right after she was born there with her mom, her half-sister, and her grandmother, and all 4 of them swimming in an echelon together.
That's awesome.
Within minutes of her being born is still one of the, not to get emotional about it, but it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. 4 generations, just awesome. So
And-
I'm glad she's here. I'm glad she's doing so well.
Yeah, and to circle back to Lily, Lily and Coquina, they were at the previous facility together. Lily made her way back to Georgia Aquarium first, and then when it was Coquina's time, Coquina made her way here to Georgia Aquarium, and we put her in the same habitat to start with Lily, and it was an immediate bond. Lily remembered her, and Coquina remembered Lily, and they paired up. Lily showed her the way. The acclimation went really well because of the bond that those two had. So,
And thanks to Lily.
Thanks to Lily.
I'm sorry, I'm done.
Lily,
She's awesome.
Lily did all the acclimation. We just kind of hung out.
That's awesome. So for all the listeners out there, you can obviously tell that we are two people that care very much about these animals, and the stories are absolutely endless. But I think one thing that's really cool for us to kind of touch on is, you are the senior director of animal training, and that's a very important role to have because as you mentioned, not only do you are in charge of the animals, but it's also the team and the growth and development of that team. So with that being said, what is the day to day? You don't have to go specific, but just what is a day to day in the life of Lisa going to be like?
Sure, yeah. Well, our day at Dolphin is very dynamic, very diverse. We do quite a bit of interactions with the animals and quite a bit of staff training. Our trainers are here as early as 6 in the morning to prepare the fish and the diets for our dolphins throughout the day. And they're here, as late as 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. some nights, just to focus on habitat maintenance and make sure that the environment that the dolphins live in is safe and sound. So, my day is diverse. So as a senior director, I hone in particularly with Dolphin, but we work as a team, the director group here at Georgia Aquarium. So we have a lot of, meetings as a director group, the zoological directors, and we talk about things and ways to, better the programs. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And then I also, spend a lot of time with my team. Right now, the Dolphin Department is focusing on launching a brand new presentation for the holiday season. So that's been taking up a lot of my time working with my team and in conjunction with the productions team. So this new presentation we're very excited about. It's going to be very holiday oriented to fit into our winter waterland. So, just kind of developing that program, working with my management group to get that kind of launched. And now we're in the phase where we have it designed and we're rehearsing it daily, but we're teaching the team how to perform the different segments and getting them incorporated into this brand new style presentation that a lot of them, have really never performed in.
Right. And I found it's actually not only is a new presentation or anything like that, not only is that enriching for the animals, it's also for the staff. Learning a brand new, a presentation or, brand new blocking, things like that, after doing one that you're so comfortable and familiar with, it's quite a challenge, but as far as development goes, it's amazing to be able to put in a new show.
Oh, absolutely. And the team is very, very, very excited. They were very engaged when we talked about what we were going to do. Every time we run a rehearsal, they're very excited, even to do, a narration, to get on the mic and to talk to our guests, to educate. This presentation is going to have a very strong conservation message associated with it. The team's very excited about getting on the mic and displaying our animals and teaching our audiences all about the bottlenose dolphin and giving them the message of what they can do when they leave Georgia Aquarium, to help animals in the ocean. So it's very powerful. It has a very powerful message associated with it.
Your team is obviously extremely dedicated to getting that message out,
Yes,
which is
yes.
incredible, and they do a great job of it. I mean, when you look at different guest feedback, the Dolphin presentation and what they take away from it is always something that I just love to see. It's so important.
Thank you.
You had mentioned kind of team development and things like that. But when I started back in the day, there was definitely a structure. Like, you started very, very low. It was almost like an apprenticeship. It was on the job training because there's only so much that academics can teach you when it comes to hands-on behavior, modification with an actual animal. Is it still that way? And kind of how is the Dolphin program here at the aquarium? How is that structured to kind of benefit the team in their development?
Oh, sure. Yes, it's very, very structured. We have a an entire educational portion that goes along. So our new trainers spend a lot of time in the classroom as well as they do poolside.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
So we have a lot of articles, behavioral theories and principles that we teach our team. They take written examinations. And they each have a coach. So if you start as an apprentice trainer, for example, you'll be assigned one of our senior trainers as your direct coach with management overseeing the growth and development. So every single week you'll sit down with your coach and you have a whole action plan for the week. You go through your action plan, you check off your goals, and you continue to learn and grow based on your skill level, right? So sometimes it may take a trainer a little bit longer, and that's okay. We'll invest in you, we'll teach you, and we'll give you the tools that you need to interact with the dolphins. And that's very important for the well-being of the animals as well, because we were talking about presentations, but not only that, the most important thing that we do is care for these dolphins, is keep these dolphins healthy. The husbandry behaviors that we do here are, phenomenal. Our dolphins are trained to go to the vet and to see the doctor. They're trained to volunteer blood samples, and gastric samples, and quarterly. So we will give those samples, to our veterinarians. Our animal health team is top of the line. They provide all the necessary care, advanced diagnostics that we may need to make sure our dolphins are very healthy and well. So we want to make sure when we hire an apprentice trainer and they understand all that. They understand the behavioral principles and theories, and they go to the classroom and they take the test. It's a lot of observation. They spend a lot of time poolside just watching. I know in particular when I first started, way back in the day, I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was, but I'm a observational learning. So I would spend time just watching the dolphins and watching the trainers interact with them, and we encourage that, with our young trainers. Just observe them, even on their own time. You can learn so much about how your session is going to go if you sit poolside and you watch your dolphins just interacting with each other. It's going to tell you a lot about how to set your sessions up and how to set your animals up for success. So we've got a lot of trainers that made their way up to their career ladder. One in particular, he started as an intern, and he's now a senior trainer. So it's really awesome to watch them grow through the program and develop.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And you guys still have an internship program as well, right?
We do.
Awesome.
Yes. And our internship program, we love our interns, and a lot of times when a position opens up, that's their job interview, right? And they go through the intern program. They already have their foot in the door. There's a position open. We move them into it and keep them moving up the ladder.
So for any future interns out there, don't forget, every single day is a job interview.
That's right.
Every single day. You heard Lisa, the senior director, say it right then and there. If you are a great intern that shows a lot of interest and treats every day like it's an interview, you're gonna be able to move forward. This is really cool. And you actually touched on something as well, and it was something I used to explain to people all the time. The presentations are literally maybe 10% of the actual job. The other 90% is everything that you just said, and that's the healthcare, the enrichment, that whole thing. There's that misconception about the career, not just the animals having their own misconception, but there's that misconception that it's all about the actual presentation.
No.
And that's so much behind the scenes, which is why I'm glad that you're here and we can talk about it.
Absolutely.
So, and I just kind of gave them a little bit of advice there. What would be, as the senior director looking for the next best dolphin trainer out there, or the next generation of dolphin trainers, what's some advice that you would give to any listener out there that wants to pursue their life's passion like you and I were able to do?
Absolutely, yes. If you have that passion, go for it and stick with it, and work your hardest. If you want to work with dolphins in particular, you need to become a very strong swimmer, because part of the dolphins' day is us as trainers getting into the water with them and just hugging them in the water and bringing ourselves into their world and going in. It's the best way to build your relationship with the animal. So in order to do that, you need to be a strong swimmer. You got to be comfortable in the water. So pursue your swimming skills. I would encourage, if you go to college, you can have a broad major, right? I chose marine sciences, but animal training is a lot of psychology. So if you go down the psychology route, that's good. All the training we do here at Georgia Aquarium is positive reinforcement, and you'll learn all about that in college. And now, intern, look at all of these other zoological facilities around that have marine mammals, that have dolphins, that have sea lions, and become an intern and soak it all in, because the zoological community is amazing, and there's a lot of very good facilities out there, including us, Georgia Aquarium, that do some really amazing things with our animals. So pursue your dreams.
And also remember too, that this community is extremely close-knit.
Yes.
So no matter where your internship is or what you do, Lisa will probably know someone that works there, and they do their homework. They follow up, kids, okay? So just make sure that you treat every day of your internship, because it will literally carry you into paths you didn't even know existed. So Lisa, let's talk about one thing real quick, and it always makes me laugh because I had to do it so many times, and I still can't believe that I passed so many times. The swim test.
Yes.
The swim test, the swim test, the swim test.
The swim test.
What is the swim test, Lisa?
So in order, to get your first job here at Georgia Aquarium with the Dolphins, we do have a very extensive swim test. Swimming is very important, as we all know, and you're entering into the animals world. You have to be comfortable in the water. So we have our trainers upon interview come in and perform the swim test first. So it's about 130-foot Olympic-style freestyle swim.
Okay.
And then you have to do an underwater swim. Okay, it's about 110-foot underwater swim. No breath. One breath, you go ahead and do that underwater swim. You have to be comfortable in the front habitat. That front habitat is 30 feet in depth. So the trainer in question would dive down to the bottom of the habitat, touch the bottom, and come up 30-foot free dive. And then just a dive into the pool, right? So, swim to the side, make sure you can get out of the pool safely, dive back in, make sure you're comfortable diving back in. And once you kind of pass that, then the interview portion of your day would begin.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. So that hasn't changed.
Has not changed, no. So that is in order to acquire the job. And then, we have our trainers currently on site. They have a maintenance. So every 3 years, we will go in and just brush up on our swimming skills and make sure that, we can still do the test. And obviously, our team is very physically fit. Our day is constantly running around, so they demonstrate that prowess every single day.
Right. And that the whole reason for the swim test too, guys, is not just to see how you would look in the presentation. It's a part of it, of course, but it's also for your own safety.
Yes.
And your team's safety, and potentially the animal safety as well. Being comfortable in a saltwater environment, which is still in the 70-degree mark, but it's still relatively chilly as well. It's a kind of a shock to the system every single time. That swim test is very important, for just overall safety, not just aesthetics.
Exactly, and it's a very fast-paced day. We are running around all day long. Everything that we do, you have to be able to lift at least 30 pounds. Moving dolphins from habitat to habitat. We have gates that open and close. So you have to demonstrate that physical prowess. So like you said, so that you stay safe and you can perform the daily duties of the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, some great advice there for any future Georgia Aquarium dolphin trainers. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. But I'm gonna ask you one question. I'm gonna put you on the spot as we wrap up. What's been your favorite memory, experience, moment of your career so far?
I think my favorite thing about working here at Georgia Aquarium with these amazing animals, this was life-changing for me because, we had a team, I was hired on by the director at the moment, and we changed our lives. So we moved here to Georgia, and what's fantastic is all the dolphins here moved with us. So we all started a new life together, and, as my job kind of takes me away from poolside sometimes, when I come back in, and I'll use Phoebe and Kay, two of our dolphins. Kay is a male and Phoebe is a female. They they remember, right? So I'll dive into the water with Phoebe and I can feel that bond and that connection immediately. The way she responds when I get into the water and the way I respond to her, the relationship that her and I have is so amazing that it just literally still gives me butterflies in my stomach. And that's the most important thing. You know, we are here and we do what we do. We work weekends, we work holidays, we work early, we work late because of these animals, because of the care we provide them, and because of these amazing relationships that we have that allow us to provide them the best welfare and the best care in the world.
It's beautiful. So. That's awesome. And I was even going to ask you as well. You still get in there and get your feet wet, don't you?
That's why, you know, I started this. That's why I'm here. So, yes, I am in the water.
That's awesome.
With my team and with these animals. So.
Very cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun. My friends, make sure you don't miss our next episode. Stay tuned.